This is the New York Police Department's bomb squad. Part human, part dog, part robot, all one team.
Lethal and indiscriminate. To disarm one is to save countless lives.
NYPD bomb squad has given the all clear.
One reason the members of the oldest and biggest bomb squad in the United States are unique.
Bomb squad was able to safely remove a device.
When you don't see them, the NYPD bomb squad is always watching for that unsuspecting threat.
NYPD bomb squad racing in, then hauling away another suspicious package.
Package has been properly identified.
You're listening to Tales from the Boom Room. Profiles of the NYPD's arson explosion bomb squad.
Sometime maybe 1:15 in the morning, and I was a female detective, and she's telling me that they have a person in the squad room that came from a residence and was explaining in broken English that there's some people, students that were in the room and that sharing an apartment, and they had been constructing devices, and he left, and he wanted to call. Well, he wanted to advise. He found police officers in the street. I think they were transit police officers, and to advise them that, before these guys wake up, this is what they're doing. And then, the rest is history. They brought him into the squad room.
Joe was given the key to get in the place, and Joe puts the key in the door. And go ahead, Dave. Tell him what happened. Go ahead.
He turns the key, and he looks at me like a big puppy that he is. He looks and goes, "Dave, I think I locked the door." So I look at him and I said, "Well, open the effing door and let's go." And it was, despite all that tension, despite all of what we're going through, it was a moment of laughter almost, like of all things to lock the door. And
safety first.
Yeah. The whole problem with the open door was I kind of put myself in these guys' position that if I'm making bombs to use tomorrow, why am I leaving my door unlocked? So that kind of, while we were all chuckling about me locking the door when we're trying not to tip them off that we're coming in, I figured that maybe we weren't going to get past that door to begin with. So, but at that point, Dave summed it up the best. We've unzipped our fly. They know we're coming. So let's go. So you got to go at that point. You can't stop now. So I shoved the door open, and nothing happened. So we ended up making the entry, and it was laid out exactly the way the guy explained it. So go ahead, Dave. You can go on with this.
Yeah, Joey opens the door. We go in. I see the two individuals at the other end of the room sleeping on a cot, and the one gets up. He starts to. Abu Meza came charging towards me. I shot him, and then Lafi Khalil gets up. And we're stepping on the bomb satchels themselves. We didn't even realize it, but he lunges towards me. I hit him midair. On his lunge, he dropped like a rock, and then Joey looks down and he's like, "Holy cow, we're standing on the bombs," So at that point, we cleared them out. We dragged them out all the way to the front, dropped them on the floor, went back in, and continued clearing the building out.
Actually swung out, so he had to be nimble to get that door open, holding a gun in a bunker to pull the door towards him. And when he did, I had Sergeant English behind me. And Dave isn't a little guy. And so he pretty much, with his vest on, took up the whole doorway. So I was standing behind him and I heard the shots, so I knew something was going on, but I really couldn't see. I guess as one of them started to move, Dave had to move to the left. And as he did, I shoved past him and got into the room with Dave. And at that point, I saw the two individuals that Dave was dealing with. and the guy on the right, I ordered him, don't move, don't move. And he looked at me, and then he looked down at the ground, and then I looked down at the ground where he was looking, and that's where, very dim light. There was no real light in there. The only light that was in the room was the light of Dave's Glock, and just a little bit of sunlight coming through this window that had a covering on it. So it was a very dim lit room, but I could see a bag on the floor, and I looked at him, and he looked me straight in the face and lunged. And as soon as he started to move, I shot him twice. And at that point, he stopped his movement. Mini 14s have a habit of doing that to you.
And the two men that you mentioned, Jerry Sheen and John Santos, they taught me an awful lot. And I looked around; they weren't there that morning. So now it was up to me to actually start saying, "Oh crap! I gotta like actually do this stuff without them stopping any mistakes." Because an investigation like this, I knew was going to wind up in the hands of the Joint Terrorist Task Force, but they bring arson and explosion in just in case it isn't. If they some way or somehow is deemed not a terrorist thing, then it's going to fall under the purview of an arson and explosion investigation. And also, I figured they called us for a fall guy in case things really went bad. Blame A&E. So I get the phone call. I tell guys to respond different places. I had very few detectives. It was the summertime. We're a small squad, so I had guys on vacation. So I had a couple of guys go to the scene. I had one detective respond with me over to Kings County, and I arrived at Kings County, and one of the perps was already in the operating suite, and the other one was in the ER, in the emergency room, and they were prepping him to go into an operating suite. With him, guarding him, was a night watch detective. And one of the things that the detective brought to my attention immediately was the fact that they were very interested in what time it was. And they kept on asking about 9 o'clock. And, now I needed to find out what this guy knew about 9 o'clock. So I wanted to question him a little bit. And there must have been this she was a young female resident doctor that was working there. And she took exception to the fact that I wanted to question this man. And, I told her, I need to question him. I need to find out things that he knows and hopefully, prevent a tragedy. And she goes, well, I'm not interested in your job. My job is to save his life. And I told her, well, my job is to save his life too. And then hopefully it saves other people's lives. Then I don't care what you do to him. But right now, I'm going to talk to him. Well, in that same area of the emergency room was an old-time nurse. And she was standing there. She watched what was going on and knew that, well, this young doctor needed to get out of the way. So she went over there and told this young doctor that she was needed elsewhere. And she left. And then the next thing I see is an anesthesiologist or his assistant come walking over, and he says, in 5 minutes, you could ask him anything you want. So I found out that they just got came in from, they were Palestinian. They were part of Hamas. The 9 o'clock thing, I can never, get a handle on what the 9 o'clock thing was, other than there may have been another group. That was the only thing I could, kind of correlate together, because maybe there was another group that was going to go out, in conjunction with them. Because a lot of times with these cells, they work independently, or sometimes they can team up. So we had to be a little aware of that. I got the information back to the scene as quickly as possible. to hope that that the guys, Paul and Richie, for rendering safe purposes, I didn't know if the device was still at the scene or not. But we certainly didn't want to be standing there at 9 o'clock, finding out that there was another device that was going to detonate something.
I'll tell the funnier version. Anyway, I heard shots. I asked Paul, "Is that shots?" He goes, "I think so." And then we heard some more, and then we knew. But we had stripped down already because it was a very, very, very hot night, and we were going to wear our bomb suits. So all the clothes came off, and we put on our it's a coverall,
No mech suits.
Yeah, a no mech suit. So we had wearing that, and I took my gun off. I put it in a bag. And he took his gun off. We went on an entry team. We trust emergency. They're going to take care of whatever. It's got to be shot, So anyway, we heard the shots, and we decided we're going to go in. Mario. He came out the door. It wasn't over the radio. He came out the door. He says, "Bomb squad, get in here." And I dove into my bag looking for my gun. And this is in the dark now. I grabbed the gun. I'm banging heads with Paul. He's trying to get his gun. But I got mine and I took off. Paul, like a good partner, always, he just forgot his gun and ran with me.
I couldn't find it.
So I'm running through the building now and around the staircase and out the back door. And one of the guys, it was I think it was Meza. I believe it was Meza. He came through the door and said, "I'm going through it." This was the door out the front building into the courtyard. And I actually I was running so fast, we met face to face. I actually had to jump over him, and I wound up in the courtyard. Anyway, we went in and we looked at the bombs, and we told everybody, "That's it, we're out of here." I saw there was 4 toggle switches, and one was thrown, and the other 3 was still in the off position. So I figured, well, we went outside, we talked over it, we talked about it, and we decided to let it cook for an hour. This way, if it heats up and it blows up, you give it an hour to do whatever it's going to do, So an hour later, we went in. I took a little Polaroid camera with me. I took pictures of the whole scene, of the devices, of the room, where everything was.
5 pictures. 5.
Yeah, I took 5
pictures.
And I went back outside. We went back outside, and we spoke to our lieutenant. And I gave him the pictures. I go, "This is what it looks now." I said, "I can't promise what's going to look."
And then we had 3 left.
So anyway,
2 disappeared.
We went back in and we looked at it. And we started taking it apart. And I turned to Paul. I said, "Paul, do me a favor, get out of here. I don't want you in here with me." I said, "I promise your mother." We've been partners. We've been partners for 20 years, on and off. I said, "I promise your mother, I would always have you survive this thing." He said, but he wouldn't do it like the faithful partner he always was. So he stayed in with me, which thank God he did, because I was looking at the one package, and then I wanted to get, the room was very small and everything was in our way, and we were wearing these big suits. So I started to clear around the package, and there was a TV set there. I took the TV set off. It was on top of a very fancy milk crate, so for furniture. And I went to move the milk crate, and he taps me on the helmet, and I see his hand with no, because you don't really talk to each other because you have fans going on stuff. And I looked, and there was a filament line that ran off into another bag, and it was a booby trap. So I said, "Oh man!" So I said, "Okay." So I put the thing back. And we decided we're going to leave and go talk about this again. So we left, we come back in. And I told the lieutenant, I said, "Listen, we got a booby trap in there. It's blocking our way." He tells me, he says, "Well, I want you to take care of that first package first." I go, "No, I'm not doing that because it's in my way. This other thing is in my way." So then he thought about it, and he goes, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, thanks a lot. I'm doing the show, So anyway, we went back in and opened up the flap. We saw everything. And we figured we're going to go with the ropes and tie it off and drag it out into the courtyard where we have a better look at it, And we can use the robot also. So we went from ropes to robots. We used all kinds of modern and old technology on this stuff. There was a staircase that came down, and I put the rope through the staircase, and I pulled the package out. He got caught up, right, Paul? He got caught up when I had to go back in. I picked up the bomb and moved it around.
Yeah, we used the traffic cone. We used the traffic cone to get around the corners. It got stuck.
Yeah. So anyway, we got it out, and I roped it so that it went upside down, and dumped everything right out, so I didn't have to go through the bag. It was all wires and four big batteries, the big square batteries, and 6-volt batteries, and 4 pipe bombs. Well, the other one too, we had to take care of that. There was a pipe bomb in there, and that had match heads in it. So, but anyway, we rented that safe, and we went on to the other one. So, and we used your robot on that. The thing that saved us is after it was all over and all said and done, I took it apart and minus the explosives, and I put everything back together, all the switches, and I put electric matches in where the bombs, where they're connected to the bombs. I threw the switches, and they all went off. So I said, this guy just failed electricity 101.
You know, it's a Polaroid picture. You know, how good could it be? But we were able to see that filament line in those pictures to look for it, when we went in there to render it safe, to remove it. So I guess it was a learning experience for everybody, in and out of the house.